Hello, yes, I'm back from my holidays. Welcome to Model Kit Stuff. This is Table Talk. Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff. My name is Jason, if you don't know, and this is Table Talk, where we talk about what happened last week, what's happening and coming up in the weeks ahead. Now, as many of you know, I've been away on holiday, so I've had a bit of a break from modelling, managed to do a bit of video editing, but nowhere near as much as in my head I would like to have done. But needless to say, I've been back nearly a week, so we've got some stuff to talk about. But first of all, if you're a new subscriber, thank you very much for joining the channel. You're welcome. This Table Talk video we do every week and gives you an update on where we are with things. So if you're wondering what's happening with the Scharnhorst, you've seen the trailer and wondering when it's coming, this is the place to be to find out what's going on, and we will be talking about Scharnhorst at some point later on in the video. Right, if you're an existing subscriber, big thumbs up, thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, that helps the algorithm and other people find the channel and all of that sort of good stuff. Now then, many of my subscribers have their own channels, and there's one particular channel I want to give a shout out to this week, and that is this one. You might be able to see it on the screen there. It's Model Car 1589, relatively new channel, and if you like your model cars, that's what this guy's into. Now currently he's got, as the time I'm recording this, which is Friday lunchtime, I know you're watching it Saturday, he's got 435 subscribers and 214 videos. And he's trying to get to 500 subscribers. So do me a favor, go and check his channel out. If you like what he's doing, hit the subscribe and notifications. If you might be interested in future stuff that's coming along, hit the subscribe. You don't have to hit the notifications. That will help him. He's got some plans to do something when he gets to 500 subscribers, a giveaway or something like that, not quite sure. So go along, check his channel out. He's got some interesting content. Like I say, it's very car focused. His last video, he showed all his cars on the table, and he's got some lovely stuff. So definitely worth checking him out. Whilst we're talking about subscribers, some of my subscribers are way at the other end of the YouTube creator spectrum, and for a little while now we've done Meet the Creator videos, the most recent one being Flying Circus Models. Lovely guy in Canada who does some great work on First World War stuff. Well, I have a little bit of a twist coming up. I've got to be honest, I've got no other Meet the Creators in the pipeline. I got a couple of people who've sort of said, yeah, I may do, but there's no guarantees, and I'm certainly not pressuring people into doing things. But one very large and very famous creator has agreed to do a Meet the Creator with me, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to do a Meet the Creator live. Yeah, we're going to do it live stream, which will be a lot of fun, I think. So I'm just planning that out. I've not got a date yet. I think I know when I'm going to do it, and I've got to make sure that he's happy to agree to that. And there are some caveats around it because, you know, we've all got families and lives, so we might plan it and then we might have to move it. But yeah, Meet the Creator live. Got that sort of formulating in our minds, and I think that will be a lot of fun and a lot of people enjoy it. So yeah, always something new coming along, isn't there? Right, let's rewind and talk about what's happened whilst I was away up until now. So when I went away, I was hoping that I'd still be able to have a complete week of videos going out. And we kicked off on the Monday with the Meet the Creator. So that's 2 Mondays ago, and that, you know, I think he does awesome work. So Ukrainian guy, been living in Canada for 5 years. Flying Circus. If you missed it, go and check it out. But there was lots of love for what he's doing. And then I had in plan something to come out on the Wednesday. But the hotel in which I was staying, and I had 3 hotels while I was away that week, and they all had a common problem. Even with the premium Wi-Fi that I had to pay for, I think it was £15 for 5 days, the download speed wasn't so bad. You could stream stuff and things if you wanted, but you couldn't upload particularly well at all. So I tried uploading several times the video for Wednesday, and it just sat there and ticked and ticked and ticked. So that's why after the Meet the Creator, you heard nothing from me. I'd already said I wasn't going to do a table talk video, so that was expected. So that was it. No Wednesday video, which I'd hoped to get up. I did manage to edit some videos, and so what did we do? On Monday, we had Art Royal. Now, that was what I'd planned to get out on the Wednesday. It's only a short video, and it's a build that I did. I keep saying that I did builds a couple of years ago, and they're always a bit further away than that. I think it was 2020 that I did it. And as I said in the video, I loved that model as a kid. I believe I got it as a Christmas present, and then I bought another one a couple of years later. And in my bedroom as a kid, I had a pelmet above my window, which I used to put my models on, and I had an Arc Royal at each end of the pelmet, so I could see the 2 different sides of it. But I loved them because there's so much stuff on that model that's posable, more than anything else I'd built. So you think about the Matchbox dioramas. The diorama bases are designed for the vehicles to sit where they want them to sit. Same with the aircraft. There's not much you could do with at that time 172 aircraft. Although I do remember building the Matchbox 1:32 scale Dauntless and being a bit disappointed of how many parts were in it, as in there wasn't many. But you know, I love ship kits because you could pose the guns, and there was a little bit of animation, and I've always liked getting animation into a model, and I think that's why I've always gravitated to ship kits. But try and keep that awake. She was a lot of fun, and I absolutely loved the Arc Royal, and we did. So I revisited it. I didn't want to weather it. I wanted to build it like I did a kid, as a clean build. But you know, we were airbrushing it and applying some more experienced techniques to her, cleaned it up better, and we used some tapes instead of masking and painting and that sort of thing. And she came out really nice. And the little paper cardboard display you see with it came in the box, which was a nice touch by Airfix. I doubt you get that now because it's in the classics range, isn't it, with the original box art and stuff. So you'll probably just get the plastic parts in there. But spend a bit of time cleaning it up. It builds up really well. The one point to watch is where the deck joins the bow. If you're not careful, you can get quite a sizable gap in there, and it's difficult to clamp down. But other than that, it's a lovely little build and quite a bit of fun, and you can do it quite quickly. So nice little change of pace between what you might consider more serious builds. But yeah, a lot of fun. So that was the Arc Royal. I love the Arc Royal, and I do have the Merit 1350 with all the Flyhawk etch. In fact, I believe I've built a couple of the cranes and done a little bit of work on it. So officially, she's started, but hardly. So that was the next thing out, Arc Royal, and then on Wednesday we had the Mark 1 set for the Scharnhorst. So that was the deluxe pack. So the way they do it, if you've not seen the video, go and you're interested in building at Scharnhorst, it gives you a good insight into what you can get. We've waited a long time for an upgrade set for Scharnhorst. What you get in there is the basic set, which effectively is upgrading the basic ship. You get the mast set, which you can buy separately for just detailing the masts. The armament set, which you can buy separately for just detailing the armaments. And the radar set, which you can buy separately for just doing the radars. Not that there's actually anything wrong with the radars that come in the kit, other than in 1943 she has two different radar arrangements, so it depends on whether you're doing it March or December as sunk. Now the trumpeter kit is aiming to be depicting Scharnhorst as sunk, but there's very little difference other than paint job and radars, as we've just mentioned, during 1943. So I'm actually going through the requirement of wanting to do a particular paint scheme for an operation in March 1943. So you will have seen that I've mentioned that before. If you've not, then go and catch a couple of Table Talk videos ago. And talking about paint, my paints have arrived. I'll just move my coffee out of the way. So most of the paint I'll be using, the predominant paint system will be this. It's Colour Coats enamel paints, formerly known as White Ensign models. So when White Ensign models got broke up, the resin part of the business went to Peter Hall, who used to do their photo etch for them, and he has the resin sets and he sells them through his website Atlantic Models, along with his own photo etch, many of it being similar or improved upon the original White Ensign models. The photo etch went to Tom's Model Works in the States, and they kept the original White Ensign models web page, but it's never been tidied up. So there's all sorts of, there's resin on there which they don't sell anymore. There's latest news which is out of date. So it's not great from that point of view. It needs a tidy up, and they've never got round to it. And the paints ended up going to a company in the UK who used to have an online model shop and sold all sorts of stuff for ships, and now they just focus on the paints, and I think they're probably 2-3 years into just focusing on the paints. Now the paint system is great. The only shortfall is they do have regularly out of stocks because the paints are in demand. They're no different to Humbrol paints, other than these are really well researched paint colours, very well. And if you go onto their website, they talk to you all about how they do that and how the paint is researched. So I bought some paints that were missing. We might use 1 or 2 acrylic paints for 1 or 2 smaller jobs, but the main things, the hull, the superstructure, rafts, are all going to be painted in enamels, which means it'll be easier, quicker. I'll get a better paint finish. For the first time, I've bought some Colour Coats thinners. I don't usually use their thinners, but I thought, why not? We'll give it a go. So that might end up being a standalone video on how to use and thin Colour Coats paints, maybe. So there is just one paint I'm short of, which is the dark grey for steel decks. So there's a particular dark grey that was used for, if you think about the Bismarck, which most people are familiar with, the boot line, the black bow and stern, and the steel decks, not black. It's a very dark grey, and it's a different grey to this one, which you can see there, which is the dark grey being used for the camouflage. So most of the superstructure and a good length of the hull is going to be in that grey, but it's not the same grey as the boot line. So the boot line will be a slightly different grey. I need to replicate that, but they are out of stock of it. So it's their part code KM05. So if any of you have colour coats KM05, I'm after maybe two tinlets of it. If anyone's got some, they're willing to sell it to me, then I'm interested, because it's out of stock and there's no way of knowing when Colour Coats will have it back in stock. I have asked for a notification when it's back in stock, but knowing my luck, it'll come into stock just as I'm putting the last rigging line on. So yeah, anyway, other than that, I've got all the paints. Now I do have a backup plan. If I can't get hold of this, then I can use a live colour paint, but I love live colour paints. Before I say I don't like them, I do. I love live colour paints. They're great paints to use on ships, and if I'm using acrylics, then that's definitely the paint system that of my choice. But I don't think their colour matching is quite as good as Colour Coats, and their particular steel deck colour that you would use for this, I think, is slightly off. So I might end up having to mix a colour, but anyway, it is what it is. But if anyone has ever bought KM05 and they've got anything left over, I am interested, because I have none. Or I think, sorry, I've got half a tin. I've got half a tin, and I need a fair bit more, because there's quite a bit of steel deck on Scharnhorst as well, and being 1/200, it's quite a long boot line. But there you go. I am pretty much ready to go on the Scharnhorst, and this weekend is going to be somewhere between 28 and 30 degrees here up near Preston. So I am going to be out with my rattle can and priming the hull in white, ready for marking up for alterations. Doing that because it's going to be a nice, dry, sunny day. We'll do it early in the morning when the temperature's right for getting the rattle can out. I use an automotive primer, and I'm using white because I can mark it up with a pencil what I want to correct and stuff like that. And it shows up some of the work that needs to be done. Not as well as using a silver paint, which is my preferred way of highlighting detail like seam lines that needs to be removed. But we'll talk all about that when we do the build. But that doesn't mean that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just taking the opportunity of a good, dry, sunny, clear day with no risk of rain or moisture to get out there and get the hull primed, and then it'll go back in the box ready for the build to start. So I don't have a date yet for starting the Scharnhorst. As soon as the Queen Mary's done, but it's not Queen Mary week. We'll talk about that in a second. Then of course yesterday we had the return of the Queen Mary 2 video series. So she's had quite a bit of a break since the last video went out, because I decided I wanted to clear my desk. So the Avro Anson came out. I decided I was going to build that there and then. We did that. Then I decided I was clearing my deck. So things that were started were cleared, with the exception of one model, which I still need to clear at some point. And we went down from about 5 kits on the go to 2, which is how I'm maintaining it at the moment, other than HMS Fly, which I'm just struggling to find the moment to get going on that again, to be honest. But we will get to it at some point. Anyway, in the week since I've come back from my holiday, we've been back on the Queen Mary 2. Let's move that out of the way. So let's talk a little bit about her progress. She's a little bit out of shot, isn't she? So let me just turn you around a little bit. There we go. So we have put on, we've got all of these railings on. So they're in the kit, they're clear. You have to get them to a smoky brown grey colour, which we've done. Then all the little stanchions need painting in black, which we've done. And then all the tops need painting in a mahogany wood, which we've done, and then installed them. We've installed the lifts, we've installed this dining room windows here, and I can tell you these other dining room windows that have gone in, if you remember, I painted the carpets in there grey with red dots. You can actually see that through there. You can actually see that through there. Now, I did a test fit and put a little table in. I'd done a little brown table, and you couldn't really see that. It just became a bit of a blurry blob, but you can see the carpets, so I'm quite happy. As you can see, the davits for the lifeboats are in place, and they have got cables at the back which I've painted black to try and make them stand out a little bit, but they sort of disappear behind there, to be honest, in with this railing. But anyway, they're in. Radomes have been done. We've done, I've been working on, let me show you, the 2 sports courts. So that's the sport court there. And as you can see, I have cut netting, which is some Edward mesh photo etch. So if you go into the Edward website, they've got a little section which has got all sorts of meshes and scribers and all sorts of stuff that they do in there. So this has all been cut to size. It's just waiting to be painted green to emulate the green netting. We'll do some for the tops as well and put some sag in. So the benefit of using photo etch mesh is you can shape it, and those courts have a sag in the roof, so we'll be able to emulate that. So that's been started. The smokestack, or the funnel, depending on which way you go, Ron, has been painted up, so it's jet black on the actual ship. What I have done is I've undercoated it in Humbrol 33 matte black, then I've gone over it in the Vallejo black, I forget the number now, and then I've given it a satin varnish to seal it all in. But the inside of the pipework in the funnel has been left in the original matte black, and I'm going to just dry brush it with a burnt steel, because when you look closely at the funnel cap, you can see that there is some heat staining on the metalwork of the pipework there. So I want to try and emulate that a little bit. It'd be a nice little variation of the colour amongst all that black there. I am working on the wind deflector and the casing that goes around the outside of the funnel. So obviously that will be in Cunard red, which we have a specific agreed colour for that. But you can see it has a couple of black lines. Now on the kit, it's a couple of raised lumps, and the dimensions are wrong, and it's a raised lump, which is wrong. So I've just sanded them off. We've painted it black. We'll mask that off. That was painted a few days ago in the Vallejo. No primer, straight down with the Vallejo. Then we've sealed it with a Humbrol satin coat, which is a nice hard varnish. That's been drying for what, 3 days now. And then we'll be able to put about 1.5mm, I think, masking strip over it, spray it all in a yellow primer, and then go over it in red, and it should really pop. Should be really nice. So that's the plan. That's where I'm up to, basically. And next, when we get onto it, we'll be finishing the courts, finishing painting the pools, and then we'll move along the line a little bit. I have also been working on, wherever they are, the lifeboats. So doing the orange on the lifeboats. And then, so I've got railings, clocks, and some other details to go along here, some cushion boxes and bits and pieces. So we're going to move along the top and along the side at the same time, move backwards, is the basic idea as we go. I haven't resolved the issue with this decal, and it is bugging me like mad, and I might just lift it at this point. I'd rather not have it on than have all that. It just looks horrid. But anyway, yeah. So she's now parked until next week, because this week is go-to week. So a little bit of a behind-the-scenes moment. I thought you'd be interested to see some of the lengths you end up going to get video content that works. Sometimes it is not easy. So I am about to install all these glass, I'm not sure what the word for them is, it's left my mind, but they're not railing, balustrades or whatever you want to call them, and they've got to go in along here, and I want to show you at least a couple of them going in. So I can't show you taking them off and cleaning them up and then putting them in. That's two different camera lengths. So I need my camera above me for cleaning them up, but that above shot isn't going to work for the side of the ship here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up a couple, not record it, and then add them, and then afterwards I'll clean up some more, but I will record it, and then I'll edit it in the other way around. So you'll see me cleaning the parts up, and then you'll see me adding them. So yeah, so I'm doing it back to front, but there you go. That's one of the things that we have to go through. So I'm ready to do that, and I've got my iPad here, and you can see this is the Armoured Fighting Vehicle paint stand from EBMA, and it's really handy for getting some unusual angles side on. So you can see it's propped up there. I've got my microphone and my charging cable plugged into it, and you can see it there. I've got the shot all ready to go. All I've got to do is hit the record button, and away we go. So I'll be able to talk while I'm doing that, because I've got my my microphone, which is just there, which will pick me up. But sometimes I find when I'm concentrating and talking, the volume level of me talking goes down, so I have to sort that in the editing suite. So you have to correct that. So, but it does leave me very little space on the cutting mat. There'll be enough, we'll get through it. So that's why I'll just do a couple, and then I'll just belt along and get the rest of them done. So this will be a really time-consuming process, but my setting up time and my editing time will setting up time, getting the angle right and getting it where you wanted, because I tried a different solution first and it wouldn't work. So that's probably 10-15 minutes to set up the shot. Then when we come to edit it, because we're recording it back to front, and we'll have to adjust sound levels with the rest of the video and stuff, you're probably on another 10 or 15 minutes. Once you've got it loaded up into the editing suite as well, but that's very quick. So once you've done all that, that's about half an hour of time, which comes out of my hobby time, that I've spent sorting out a shot that will probably end up being no more than a couple of minutes on video. So just to give you an idea of how much effort goes in to just a moment that you see on video, and it could be a blink and you've missed it moment sometimes, and I've put loads of effort into getting it right so it runs right in the video. So when people say silly comments like, can you stop going a little bit, and so on and so forth, quite frankly, no, I've got bigger fish to fry. But there you go. That's how I set up my shot. This particular shot that you'll see in the next Queen Mary 2 video when it comes out, you'll now know that I spent a good half an hour on whatever you get to see, plus the actual runtime of that clip. And I also spent 5 minutes
talking to you and table talk about how we went about it. So there you go. That's how much goes into it and how much it can get in the way. And part of the reason that I'll only do 2 is I can then take that away. That'll just hook straight up into there. I can do the clean-up shot, and then I can just battle through it. And you'll just see it as there it is done. Okay, that's enough talk. I better get on with it, because at some point this lot upstairs will all get out of bed and then it gets noisy. And that's why sometimes when you're watching my videos, you get music rather than me talking, because, well, I don't have a lot to say sometimes when you're doing repetitive stuff. And also if it's noisy in the kitchen, we just put some music on, or maybe a voiceover. Right, I better get on with the task at hand.
This weekend I'll be concentrating on painting the wings and the fuselage. So we'll be airbrushing all of that up, and then decaling and sealing, and if I'm lucky we might start putting some weathering finishing on there. So I'm not overly weathering the goat. I want it to be sort of museum standard, but you've got all these undulations and I want to put some shadows and bits and pieces in. So that's this week. On the bench all week will be the goater, and as I get a moment we'll grab some time on her and get that done. And she should look fairly splendid then, because once that's done we're putting in the all the stanchions along the wing, and starting the rigging points and bits and pieces before we finally start building it all up. So that's what's happening on the modelling bench this week. Next thing to talk about is what's coming up video-wise. Right then, Monday I might not have a video at all. I don't know. I have no material recorded for the Monday slot, which is usually a product, tool, quick tip type slot. And I have nothing recorded for that at the moment. What I usually do with quick tips is I take them from things that I'm doing in my builds at the time. So it's likely to be a rigging quick tip at some point when I'm doing the goater, but I'm not at that stage now. And there's nothing on the Queen Mary 2 particularly. I mean, as ships go, as much as she's a beautiful ship and an important ship, unlike a warship, she's not got lots of different things that you can animate. She's a very static ship from that point of view. And although I have tried to put a little bit of animation in, there's not a lot you can do with it. So that's not lending it to quick tips. I do have 1 or 2 products that I could do reviews of, but I like to try and do my reviews as I'm using them. So we might be doing a product talking about MIG shaders at some point when I'm using them on the goater. But I haven't used them on the goater yet, so I don't have anything. So I'm a bit out of material at the moment, so there might not be anything on Monday. There's possibly, I do have some photo etch that I could review, and possibly will do that. On Wednesday, my computer's gone off again, we have a CSM kit going out. So this is the one that I planned to have going out a week or so ago, but I just I didn't get the editing done until I was on holiday. So that is already loaded up, ready to go. So Wednesday's definitely happening. A beautiful little model kit, I have to say. So don't miss that. If you saw my comparison of CSM to wingnut wings, and my conclusion being they're not wingnut wings, but they're as good as you're going to get right now, then you may want to watch this, because it's quite an unusual aircraft, something a little bit different. World War I, obviously, and it's a beautiful model, so do catch that. And then the plan on Friday at this moment in time is to do go to 8, and I'm about a third of the way through editing that. I've got to finish editing the video together, then go back and do voiceover, then go back and put some music slots in where there's no voiceover, and then we're ready to go. So quite a bit of work to get that video out on time, to be honest. And then we'll be back on another table talk. So I'll be talking to you about what's coming after that next Saturday. So that's where we are with what's coming up. GOTA, I'm not sure how many more videos there is to do on that. Though it's a big, larger aircraft, we're at the point where really it's painting, decals, rigging, touch up, done. Wow. All the action is in the cockpit. So in GOTA 8, you should see the cockpit coming together. And there's a bit of work to do in the front end of the cockpit before it can go together. There's a couple of stanchions, really flimsy stanchions, not in terms of the kit, but in terms of the original aircraft design. So yeah, everything's held together by the rigging, by the looks of it, and a bit of luck and divine intervention, I think. So that's where we are with what's coming up next week. So let's talk a bit more broadly about what might be coming up in the not too distant future. So we know what the plan is. When Queen Mary finishes, we're jumping onto the Scharnhorst. So I've finished my Scharnhorst preparation spreadsheet. So if you remember, what we did is resequence the instructions, which actually didn't need much resequencing. We documented where the Mark 1 upgrade set would be used on each steps so that I can follow my spreadsheet steps and refer to the instructions and the separate instructions of the aftermarket appropriately. I then went on to identify which items within the photo etch sets of the Mark 1 kit were not mentioned in the instructions. So the instructions, similar to Pontos, if you saw the review you'll have seen them, is lots of photographs with little arrows with the numbers on. They show you some sub-assemblies and then reference those sub-assemblies as well in the pictures, but you don't get instructions particularly. So sometimes parts get missed because they're on the other side of the picture and they're out of shot, or they're within something, or they're hidden, or they forget to mention them. So I then went through every single part number on every fret of the MK1 set, and I did this while I was on holiday. So this was my evening's activity, sat on the bed with my laptop, populating the spreadsheet, and right, is that on the instructions? Yes. Is that so? Fret A, part 1 on the instructions. Yes, found it. Tick. Came up with quite a long list of stuff that wasn't mentioned, so then I have to try and identify what they are. One or two of them were quite big items, and there were direct replacements for the kit photo etch, which was helpful, easy to identify. Some things you could recognise, bits for some of the ship's boats and things, easily recognisable. Some of them were generic items, like none of the scuttles are referenced anywhere, but they provide you with loads of them. And also things like hand irons, loads of those were referenced, but also quite a portion of them are supplied and not referenced. You've got spare hand irons for various different places. So one way or another, I've identified all but 2 parts, and as I'm building the kit, then they might just go, they look like, and we should work it out, hopefully. So yeah, all in all, not too bad. There was one complete fret that is not referenced in the instructions at all, which has got 4 items on it, and it's not mentioned at all, which was interesting. Anyway, the spreadsheet is done. That's ready to go. But it turns out I don't have enough photo etch for the Scharnhorst. Now, if you looked at the MK1 video, you saw all those photo etch sheets, but there's also a wooden deck, and there's the 3D printer parts. So you probably can't believe me when I say there's not enough photo etch, but there isn't. So there is no sea chest provided. There is no sea chest moulded into the hull. So you've got to make the sea chest yourself if you're that way inclined. I intend to, so I've ordered a set of Bismarck sea chests from White Ensign Models in the States. So the photo etch that you can use for the sea chests, you can also use on the Scharnhorst. You won't need all of them, but the big grills on the side that you'll be able to use, and they look better than putting your own mesh in, to be honest. So I've ordered those. They're not expensive, and also there is no provision for the scuttles on the hull. Now I need to move all the scuttles, or a good proportion. Vast majority of them are getting filled and moved. And all of those scuttles need a little eyebrow above them. So I've also ordered eyebrows, because the MK1 set supplies you with round scuttles with an eyebrow above them, which is fine for the superstructure because that's the correct look, but they're not fine for the hull because they don't have this raised ring around the porthole on the hull. Portholes are flush. Scuttles, sorry, I should say, are flush with these eyebrows over them. So you need eyebrows, and White Ensign Model do 1/200 scale eyebrows only. So I've ordered those as well. So yeah, believe it or not, I've had to order more photo etch because MK1 didn't go far enough. So hopefully they'll be here in the next couple of weeks. I only ordered them last night actually, so they're on the way. And the next thing that I've got to do, other than the painting of the hull that I've mentioned with the Scharnhorst, is to make some hull dimension cards. So I don't think I'm going to do any major work on the hull. I'm certainly not going to put the docking keel in. It's nonsense. You can't see it when it's done. Why would you do it? It's hidden behind the bilge keels. It makes very, very little difference to the side-on aesthetic when you look at it. I understand some people want to do it. Good for you. I'm not going to bother. But the bow particularly has got an issue. So I want to sort the shape of the bow. And what I want to do is try and calculate that from, I've got some 1/500 scale technical drawings in my Anatomy of the Ship book, so I can plus that by 2.5 and I've got 1/200 scale. But they provide the full 1 to 200 scale outlines that you can turn into templates. If you've ever seen Nigel's Titanic videos, Nigel did exactly that. He created some card templates, run the full length of the hull and corrected the hull shape. And quite correctly it says you're limited at the top because of the shape of your deck. But you can do the sides and the lower hull. So I don't intend to do that at this stage, but what I do want to know is, have I got the sweep right from the bow? If I'm having to correct it, I'm either adding material, taking material, combination of the both. I want to make sure that the bulbous bow is correct as well, and I might want to mess around with the shaft line bulges. Which to me look way too short, so I might want to extend them. If they're looking short, it probably means that the whole hull shape is wrong, and it'll depend on how far wrong it is. If it's a little bit of sanding it in, yeah, I might just do it. If it's a matter of cutting great big chunks out and dropping it down and what have you, probably not, but we'll see. So I'm going to make up the cards for the bow and the stern. I'm not necessarily going to do the full set, and that might just help me with the decisions. And also I think the stern is a little bit too smooth in shape. When you look at the actual pictures of her, you can see how the bow is sort of going in straight lines, almost like it's been put through a press brake. So be interesting to see what I end up deciding I want to do with the hull. But that's my next step in terms of preparation before I get building, and then we're pretty much done and ready to go once the Queen Mary's done. Right then, let's change the subject totally and talk about War of the Worlds. So if you've been watching Table Talk in the last few weeks, you know that we went on a family holiday. and we went off to London and Warwick. And one of the things that we'd planned to do when we were in London was to go here, the War of the Worlds immersive experience. So this is based on the Jeff Wayne's musical version of the War of the Worlds. Now, I'm a big War of the Worlds fan. I got into it through Jeff Wayne's music in the late 70s when I was a youngster. That got me to read the novel, and I don't really read novels. I have dyslexia, and reading a novel is a very difficult thing for me to do. Factual books, not a problem. I can read and read and read those, but novels I struggle with. They don't keep my attention, and there's only a small handful of novels that I've actually read. War of the Worlds being one of them. Fatherland is another one that I've read from cover to cover. That was gripping. But anyway, War of the Worlds, probably my favourite out of the very small number of novels I've ever read, and one of my favourite sci-fi stories. And my favourite part of the book, as you might imagine, as I'm into my Navy ships, is the engagement with the Thunderchild. And for a little while, I've had a project in mind, and it sort of drifted from my mind, if I was honest. But we did the War of the Worlds immersive experience, and the first thing I'm going to say is, if you're ever in London or you live in London and you've never done it, do it. It is brilliant. It's a little bit pricey. I think it was £52 per person, something like that, for the four of us. The kids might have been a bit cheaper. I can't remember now. I bought the tickets ages and ages ago. You have to buy tickets quite in advance, but it is worth every penny and more. It was brilliant. My youngest daughter, she was like, "Ooh," in the chair as it kicked off. So it's a combination of engaging with actors. They had Daisy. Many of you know Daisy because she's been on the live streams and things. They had Daisy breaking through a house window to open the door to let us all in. So the basic premise is you're a refugee, and you're going through the War of the Worlds story as a refugee, not as the characters from the book. And you interact with actors. They immerse you into all sorts of things. You're in the dark and there's things going on. There's strobe effects. Then you're moving on. You're being passed from pillar to post as an evacuee. You get on boats and you go out while the Thunderchild attacks these Martians. You get picked up by a Martian. You go into the church. You see Ogilvy get burnt alive, and you've got VR sets on in different places. At one point, you've got a VR set on, and you can see these alien tentacles coming to probe you. And there must be someone behind a curtain. I don't know how they did it, but something actually touches you. And there's other people in your little group. There was, I think there was, 8 of us in our group going around. So you go around in small groups, and you can hear them squealing and screaming. It was brilliant. You can tell I really enjoyed it. So if you ever get a chance to do it, or you live in London and you've not done it, Paula went and did it, my partner. She came along. She doesn't know War of the World. She's not interested in sci-fi, didn't know the story at all, doesn't particularly like the music, has never listened to it. She loved it. She absolutely loved it. Completely different to anything you've ever done. You know, you go to Harry Potter World and you look at some of the props and stuff and go, oh yeah, it's good, isn't it? This was amazing. Absolutely amazing. You go out going, whoa. Yeah, so totally enjoyed it. We had a great time in London. I'll show you some pictures at the end. Did some really fun some stuff we've not done before, some stuff the kids hadn't done before, so they've never seen the Crown Jewels before, for example. And there was a garden. It's called the Gardens at 102, I think. And they're free, and it's on top of a big skyscraper. Totally free. You get great panoramic views, eat your lunch and watch London. Beautiful. So we had loads of fun there. Then we went to Warwick Castle for Alice's birthday. She was 11. and we watched live jousting, and she absolutely loved it. And she had a go at archery, and she was better than me. So yeah, we had a really good time. Absolutely brilliant. But in all of that, it reminded me of a modelling project that I was thinking about a few years ago and didn't get around to. But I have the stuff for it, and it's made me think about bringing that back. So we know after Queen Mary 2, I've rambled a little bit and gone around the houses, haven't I? After Queen Mary 2, it's the Scharnhorst. After the Gotha, it's the, I never remember if it's the, yeah, it's the Bristol Bowfighter. I keep wanting to say the Beaufort. Yeah, no, Beaufort, not the Beaufort. See what I mean? It's the Bristol Beaufort Mark 1 coming after that. Then whichever one we finish first, which will be the Bristol Beaufort Park, easily, because we won't be finishing the Scharnhorst in a hurry. I might, not guaranteeing anything, we might do a diorama of War of the Worlds sinking the Thunderchild. So to do that, you need to have Martians in 1:350 scale. Martians in 1:350 scale. I'm going to do a kit review of this because I haven't done the kit review of this. So this is from Pegasus Hobbies. They do a larger scale one, which I built a few years ago and put lights in, and it was very cool. But these are based on the Martians in the Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg War of the Worlds film. Notice that they don't have the War of the Worlds, because actually the copyright The War of the Worlds, as is the novel, is owned by H.G. Wells' family, so you have to get permission. Jeff Wayne got permission to use the, and I think Steven Spielberg did as well. But these Martians are based on that, but I'm going to paint them slightly differently because I like these Martians. These are the ones I grew up with. So these Martian tripods I really, really like. You can get resin kits of these, so no, don't be putting in the comments, oh, you can get the. I know you can, but they're massively expensive. They're really hard to get hold of. Whereas these, they're a bit more difficult now than they used to be, and the price has gone up subsequently as a result. I think you're probably spending 70 quid on this kit now, whereas it was 45, 50 when I got it. But I have my 1:350 scale Martians. Now, up in the attic, I have a kit, and I'm going to review that as well, which I'm going to use as Thunderchild. So let's just talk about what your options are here. So when you're considering Thunderchild, which obviously is a fictional ship, you've got 4 options in terms of models as far as I'm concerned. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the book. And there's a little bit of an issue with the description in the book. So repeatedly in the book, the Thunderchild is referred to as a ram or a torpedo ram. Now, a ram or a torpedo ram is one of these. So it's likely that in the book, he was basing his thoughts of Thunderchild around this, which is a torpedo ram from the late 1880s that was in service until about 1903. Now remember, the book is set in around about 1900, somewhere between 1900 and 1907. So anything that's end of the century, start of the 20th century is in scope for Thunderchild. But also in the chapter about the Thunderchild talks about the guns. She doesn't fire her guns, which is how she gets close to the first tripod and cuts it down. Manages to cut down a second one, this time with its gun, bringing its guns, plural, multiple, to bear, before having her middle ships melted by the heat ray. So the description in the War of the Worlds musical version is slightly different to the book. So the book's referring to a torpedo ram that's armed. Now, that's probably a misunderstanding by Mr. Wells as he was writing it as to quite what he was talking about. And that's leaving you with a little bit of interpretation, because actually there are a number of ships at that time that are similar to a ram but bigger and armed. So that's why I'm saying you've got a number of options. So you could use as your Thunderchild kit, because there isn't really a torpedo ram kit that you could then arm up. You'd be scratch building, and I know one or two people have done it based on that. But for me, she's not a torpedo ram. She's a battle cruiser with a ram-shaped bow. So that gives you Mikasa, which is a Japanese ship, but designed and built in the UK. So that gives you a ship that wasn't used in the British Navy that you could fictionally turn into a British Navy ship. The main fundamental difference is she's based on a design that was used by the Navy, where they had two smokestacks lined against each other, next to each other, rather than in line. So if that's your bow, in line is the more usual way. This particular design that was being used at the turn of the century had the funnels next to each other. But when they did the Mikasa for the Japanese Navy, they did them in line. So Mikasa's funnels are in line. So you could use the Mikasa because she's of that period. She's got the right shaped bow. She was launched in 1902, so she's of the period. That's option one. Option two is you could use Dreadnought, HMS Dreadnought as launched, because she's launched in 1906, 1905 design, so she's of the period. Obviously, she's not an ironclad, which is the description in the book, because she's a dreadnought. But you could use the Dreadnought and maybe even modify her so that she was of a unique ship, because it's fictional, so you can do as you please. But you could use Dreadnought as Thunderchild if you wanted. They do talk in the book about it being state of the art, so you can use that element to say, yep, we'll use the Dreadnought, but you could only use it in her earliest guise, not the updated 1915, 1918 and so on. Or you could use Lord Nelson or Agamemnon, which are also ships of that. I mean, Agamemnon and Lord Nelson actually come out after Dreadnought, but are a pre-Dreadnought design laid down before Dreadnought, because they pushed everything into getting Dreadnought out quickly. So you've got those options. So I'm going with HMS Agamemnon, which is the Hobby Boss kit. And I have filmed the first impressions of that, so that'll go out soon. Quite funny, they spelt Agamemnon wrong on the box, believe it or not. Yeah, bonkers. But anyway, so I'm going to use HMS Agamemnon from Trumpeter for my Thunderchild. But rather than doing it grey, they do say in the book grey ironclad. But rather than doing it grey, I'm going to do it in the more Victorian colours of the black hull with the white waterline and the red boot line, with probably the white superstructure and yellow funnels. So it's fictional, can do as I please, but that's based on the Victorians. It's okay for that time period, because I think it was 1902 that Royal Navy ships had to be painted in a grey, so it was a mix of black, well, a mix of white with a small amount of black added is how they got the grey. So two colours that all the Navy was carrying, and that happened from 1902, which is about the period of the story. So you could do either or. So I'm going to go with a more colourful one. I think Thunderchild will look more colourful, and then we're going to put it in a seascape, and we're going to have cannons blazing, cotton wool, flames, heat rays, and the lot. That'll be a lot of fun. Will be a lot of fun. So yeah, War of the Worlds Thunderchild diorama, that could well be coming up, maybe even before the end of this year, which would be interesting. Well, that's it for this week, I think. Thanks for looking in. I'm going to leave you with some photographs from our holiday in London. Look out for some good pictures of HMS Belfast. I will see you next week, and hopefully I'll see you before that on the next build, which should be Gotha 8. And you're welcome to join me in the live chat. Until then, you enjoy your modelling, take care, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.
Only know that I will be alone. Only it can love in this home. Only know that I want to love.
Thank you.